"Which one of you posted on Reddit last night?" the detective asked our entire homeroom. Detective Ramirez stood at the front of our AP history class, his badge catching the fluorescent lights as 28 pairs of eyes stared back at him. Mrs. Vance sat rigid at her desk, her knuckles white against the wood. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The question hung in the air like a loaded gun, and I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs because I knew exactly what post he was talking about. The post had blown up overnight. Someone from Westfield High had uploaded a video to our public freakout showing our principal, Dr. Kellerman, screaming at a freshman in the hallway. But it wasn't just any freshman. It was Malik Johnson, one of only 12 black students in our school of 800. The video showed Kellerman grabbing Malik by the shirt, shoving him against the lockers, calling him a thug and a waste of space, while Malik just stood there taking it. "I'm going to ask again," Detective Ramirez said, pulling out his phone and scrolling through what looked like screenshots. "This video was posted from an account called Westfield Whistleblower at 11:47 p.m. last night. It now has over 2 million views and has been picked up by every major news outlet. Someone in this room filmed this incident and decided to share it with the world." Aisha Turner, who sat 2 rows behind me, shifted in her seat. She was Malik's older sister, a straight A student who'd never gotten in trouble for anything. Her hands were shaking as she gripped her pencil. I'd seen her in the hallway yesterday when the incident happened, but so had at least 50 other students. Any one of us could have filmed it. The video had captured everything. Kellerman's face, red with rage, as he accused Malik of stealing from the vending machines. Malik's calm responses, his attempts to explain that he had a receipt. The way Kellerman ignored the receipt entirely and kept escalating. The moment when Kellerman's hand shot out and grabbed Malik's shirt. The sickening sound of Malik's head hitting the metal locker. The way other students just stood there, watching, doing nothing. "Let me explain what's at stake here," Detective Ramirez continued, pacing slowly between the rows of desks. "Dr. Kellerman was placed on administrative leave this morning. The school district is launching a full investigation. The FBI is reviewing this as a potential hate crime, and whoever posted this video did so without permission from the minor who appears in it. That's a felony." My stomach dropped. I hadn't thought about the legal implications when I'd uploaded the video. I'd been so angry, so disgusted by what I'd witnessed, that all I could think about was making sure people saw what really happened. Malik had been suspended for disrupting the educational environment after the incident. Kellerman's report claimed Malik had been aggressive and threatening. It was all lies, and I had proof. "Now," Detective Ramirez said, stopping directly in front of my desk, "I know one of you was brave enough to document this incident, and I understand the impulse to want justice. But there are proper channels for these things. Legal procedures. Due process. Posting vigilante videos on social media isn't how we handle these situations in a civilized society." Civilized society. The words made me want to laugh, or scream, or both. What was civilized about a grown man assaulting a 14-year-old kid for the crime of buying a Coke? What was civilized about a system that suspended the victim and protected the perpetrator? What was civilized about the fact that this was the 3rd time this year Kellerman had been accused of targeting black students, and nothing had ever been done about it? "I'm prepared to offer immunity from prosecution," the detective continued, "to whoever comes forward voluntarily. But if I have to find you through digital forensics, and I will find you, then you'll face the full extent of the law. Charges for filming a minor without consent, for posting that footage online, potentially for cyberbullying if Dr. Kellerman's legal team decides to pursue that angle." Cyberbullying. As if exposing a racist administrator's abuse of power was somehow equivalent to posting mean comments about someone's haircut. I looked around the room at my classmates, wondering if any of them were buying this. Trevor Nash was nodding along with everything the detective said. He'd been kissing up to authority figures since kindergarten. Jessica Liu looked terrified, but she looked terrified of everything. Dan Kowalski was staring out the window like he wished he could disappear. "I want you all to think very carefully about what I'm saying," Detective Ramirez said, his voice taking on a harder edge. "This video has caused tremendous damage to Dr. Kellerman's reputation and career. He's been getting death threats. His family has been harassed, all because someone decided to play judge and jury with a 30-second video clip that doesn't show the full context of what happened. That was when I realized what was really happening here. This wasn't about justice for Malik. This wasn't about proper legal channels or protecting minors. This was damage control. The school district was panicking because their golden boy principal had been exposed as a racist bully, and they needed someone to blame. They needed a scapegoat who wasn't a 60-year-old white man with 20 years of tenure. The person who posted this video, Detective Ramirez continued, thought they were being a hero. But heroes don't hide behind anonymous accounts. Heroes don't destroy people's lives from the shadows. If you really believed you were doing the right thing, you would have come forward through official channels. You would have filed a complaint with the administration. You would have contacted the school board. I almost laughed out loud at that one. Official channels. Like the complaint Malik's parents had filed 2 years ago when Kellerman called their son articulate for his kind during a parent conference. Like the report 3 other families had submitted about Kellerman's pattern of disciplining black students more harshly than white students for identical infractions. Like the petition signed by 47 parents requesting Kellerman's removal that the school board had voted to table indefinitely. However, the detective said, pulling out a folder thick with documents. We do have some leads. Reddit has been very cooperative in providing us with technical data about the posting account. We know it was created using the school's Wi-Fi network. We know it was posted from a device that had been connected to the school network multiple times over the past several months. We have IP addresses, device fingerprints, and timestamp data that will help us narrow down our search considerably. My mouth went dry. I'd used my laptop to create the account and post the video, and I used that same laptop for school presentations and research every day. Of course, they could trace it back to me. I'd been an idiot to think I could stay anonymous forever. Additionally, Detective Ramirez continued, flipping through the folder, we've been reviewing security footage from the hallway where the incident took place. While the school's cameras didn't capture the confrontation itself, they were mysteriously malfunctioning that day. They did capture students who were in the area. We're in the process of interviewing each of those students individually to determine who might have filmed the incident. Mrs. Vance finally spoke up from behind her desk. Detective Ramirez, I think you've made your point. My students understand the seriousness of the situation. Perhaps we could return to our regularly scheduled curriculum and let you conduct your investigation through appropriate channels. The detective smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Of course, Mrs. Vance. But before I go, I want to make one thing absolutely clear to everyone in this room. His eyes swept across each of our faces, lingering for a moment longer on mine than I was comfortable with. Dr. Kellerman is a good man who has devoted his life to education. He has served this community faithfully for 2 decades. And yes, he may have lost his temper in a moment of frustration, but that doesn't make him a monster. It makes him human. Human. Such a convenient word for excusing inexcusable behavior. Kellerman was human when he grabbed a child and slammed him into a locker, but Malik was somehow less than human when he stood there and took it, when he tried to de-escalate, when he apologized for something he didn't do just to make the situation stop. This video has been edited and taken out of context to present the worst possible interpretation of what happened, Detective Ramirez continued. It doesn't show what led up to the confrontation. It doesn't include Dr. Kellerman's side of the story. It's a hit piece designed to destroy a good man's career, and whoever posted it knew exactly what they were doing. That was a lie. The video hadn't been edited at all. I'd posted the raw footage exactly as I'd filmed it, from the moment Kellerman started yelling until campus security finally showed up to break things up. There was no context that could justify what he'd done. There was no other side that would make grabbing a kid by the shirt and calling him a thug suddenly acceptable. After Detective Ramirez left, Mrs. Vance tried to return to our lesson on the civil rights movement, which would have been funny if it weren't so depressing. She talked about Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott, while 28 teenagers sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. The irony was lost on her, apparently. During lunch, I sat with my usual group, Zoe Chen, Bryson Williams, and Fatima Al-Rashid. None of them knew I was Westfield whistleblower, but they all had opinions about the video and the morning's interrogation. That detective was full of shit, Bryson said, picking at his sandwich. Talking about proper channels and due process like any of that has ever worked for kids like Malik. My cousin filed a complaint about a racist teacher 3 years ago and nothing happened. Sometimes the only way to get justice is to force people to pay attention. But what if whoever posted it gets arrested? Fatima asked. I mean, I'm glad the video is out there, but is it worth someone going to jail over? Yes, Zoe said firmly. Absolutely yes. You know what would have happened if that video never surfaced? Malik would still be suspended. Kellerman would still be traumatizing kids, and everyone would just pretend nothing happened, like always. That afternoon, I got called to the office for my routine interview about the hallway incident. Assistant Principal Davis was there with Detective Ramirez and a woman I didn't recognize who introduced herself as District Legal Counsel Jennifer Park. Just a few quick questions, Cameron, Davis said with a fake smile. We're talking to all the students who were in the area when the incident occurred. Standard procedure. They asked me where I was standing, what I saw, whether I'd filmed anything. I stuck to simple, truthful answers. Yes, I was in the hallway. Yes, I saw the confrontation. No, I didn't film anything. The lie came easier than I expected, probably because I'd been preparing for this conversation since the moment I hit post 12 hours earlier. Can you tell us about your relationship with Malik Johnson? Detective Ramirez asked, consulting his notes. I don't really have one, I said. He's a freshman. I'm a junior. We don't have any classes together. But you know who he is? Sure. It's not that big a school. And what's your opinion of Dr. Kellerman? This question came from the legal counsel woman. I chose my words carefully. He's the principal. He does his job. Have you ever had any negative interactions with him? No more than any other student, I guess. He's not exactly known for his sense of humor. They asked a few more questions about my schedule, my activities, whether I was involved in student journalism or social media clubs. Nothing too specific, but I could feel them probing, testing, looking for inconsistencies. Finally, they let me go with the standard warning about contacting them if I remembered anything else. That evening, my phone exploded with notifications. The video had been shared by several prominent activist accounts on Twitter and Instagram. News outlets were picking it up. Justice for Malik was trending. Celebrities were weighing in. The story was going national, and there was no putting the genie back in the bottle. My mom knocked on my bedroom door around 9 o'clock. How was school today, honey? Fine, I said, not looking up from my homework. Same as always. I saw something on the news about your school. Something about a principal and a video. My heart stopped. Oh yeah, there was some drama with a kid and Dr. Kellerman. I wasn't really involved. She sat on the edge of my bed. The video looked pretty serious, Cameron. That poor boy being treated like that. I can't imagine how his parents must feel. Yeah, it's messed up. I'm proud that someone had the courage to speak up, she said. It takes real bravery to stand up for what's right, especially when you know there might be consequences. If only she knew. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell someone. The weight of carrying this secret was crushing me, especially as the story got bigger and the stakes got higher. The next morning brought news that made everything worse. Dr. Kellerman had been hospitalized after what his lawyer called a cardiac event brought on by the extreme stress of this malicious attack on his character. The story was everywhere. Principal hospitalized after student's viral video sparks death threats. The narrative was shifting, and I was no longer the anonymous hero exposing injustice. I was becoming the villain who'd destroyed an innocent man. Detective Ramirez was back in our homeroom by second period, this time with backup. 2 uniformed officers stood by the door while he addressed the class. The situation has escalated significantly, he announced. Dr. Kellerman is in intensive care at Mercy General Hospital. His condition is serious but stable. The harassment and threats he's received as a result of this video have now contributed to a life-threatening medical emergency. I felt sick. I'd never wanted anyone to get hurt. I just wanted people to see what really happened, to understand that Malik wasn't the aggressor that Kellerman's report had made him out to be. This is no longer just about improper posting of a video, the detective continued. We're now looking at potential charges of reckless endangerment, harassment, and contributing to the serious bodily injury of another person. The person who posted this video bears direct responsibility for Dr. Kellerman's hospitalization. No, that wasn't fair. Kellerman was in the hospital because he'd spent 20 years abusing his power and finally got caught. He was in the hospital because he couldn't handle being held accountable for his actions. I wasn't responsible for his cardiac problems any more than Malik was responsible for being assaulted. However, Detective Ramirez said, his tone softening slightly, I'm prepared to make this offer one final time. If the person responsible comes forward now, today, we can work something out. Probation instead of jail time. Community service instead of a felony record. But this offer expires at the end of the school day. After that, we prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. After he left, the classroom was dead silent. Mrs. Vance didn't even try to teach. She just sat at her desk, staring at nothing, while 28 teenagers tried to process what we'd just heard. During lunch, everything changed again. Malik Johnson walked into the cafeteria for the first time since his suspension had been lifted that morning. Conversation stopped. People stared. He got his lunch and sat alone at a corner table, trying to pretend he didn't notice everyone watching him. I grabbed my lunch and walked over to his table. Mind if I sit? He looked up, surprised. I guess. We ate in silence for a few minutes before he spoke again. You hear they're trying to find whoever posted that video? Yeah. The detective was in my homeroom yesterday and today. Good, he said firmly. I hope they never find them. Really? Even with all the trouble it's causing? Malik set down his sandwich and looked at me directly. You know what's messed up? Nobody cared when it was just my word against his. My parents filed complaints. Nothing happened. I told my counselor about other stuff he'd said to me. Nothing happened. But 30 seconds of video, and suddenly everyone's an expert on what really went down. Are you okay, though? With everything that's happened? He shrugged. I'm still here. Still breathing. Kellerman's in the hospital, but that's not because of some video. That's because he couldn't handle people finally seeing who he really is. That afternoon, I made my decision. I walked into the main office and asked to speak with Detective Ramirez. He was there within 10 minutes, along with Assistant Principal Davis and the district lawyer. I need to tell you something, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm Westfield whistleblower. I posted the video. The room erupted. Davis started yelling about how disappointed he was. The lawyer immediately started talking about criminal charges and civil liability. Detective Ramirez just sat back and smiled like he'd been expecting this. Why now? He asked once everyone else quieted down. Because hiding isn't helping anyone, I said. And because I'm not ashamed of what I did. Dr. Kellerman assaulted a student, and everyone was just going to pretend it didn't happen. That video was the only proof that Malik was telling the truth. That video has destroyed Dr. Kellerman's career and nearly killed him, Davis snapped. Dr. Kellerman destroyed his own career the moment he put his hands on a student, I shot back. I just made sure people could see it happen. The legal process moved quickly after that. I was arrested that afternoon and released to my parents' custody. The charges were serious. Unlawful filming of a minor, distribution of child exploitation material, cyber harassment, reckless endangerment. The district attorney was pushing for the maximum sentence, apparently under pressure from the school board and Kellerman's legal team. But something interesting happened over the next few days. More videos started surfacing. Turns out I wasn't the only one who'd been filming that day. I was just the only one brave enough, or stupid enough, to post it. Other students came forward with footage from different angles, showing the full context that Detective Ramirez had claimed was missing. The videos supported every detail of my original post. Even more damaging were the videos from previous incidents. Students had been secretly filming Kellerman's outbursts for months. documenting a pattern of behavior that the administration had ignored or covered up. A senior named Ashley Park released security footage she'd obtained through a FOIA request, showing Kellerman physically restraining other black students in ways that would never have been tolerated if the students were white. The narrative shifted again. Local news stations interviewed former students who shared stories of Kellerman's racist comments and discriminatory discipline practices. Teachers came forward anonymously to describe a toxic work environment where questioning Kellerman's methods meant risking your job. Parents organized protests outside the school board meetings, demanding accountability not just from Kellerman, but from the administrators who'd enabled him. My lawyer, a public defender named Angela Torres, was cautiously optimistic about our case. The prosecution's narrative is falling apart, she told my parents and me during a strategy meeting. They painted you as a malicious actor trying to destroy an innocent man's reputation. But with all this additional evidence, it's clear you were documenting a pattern of systemic abuse. The breakthrough came when a former student named Marcus Thompson contacted my lawyer. Thompson had graduated from Westfield 2 years earlier, but he'd kept detailed records of his interactions with Kellerman, including audio recordings of parent conferences where Kellerman had made explicitly racist statements. Your son didn't start this fight, Thompson told my parents during a meeting at the lawyer's office. He just finally finished it. Kellerman has been terrorizing black kids at that school for years, and everyone knew it. The administration knew it, the teachers knew it, the school board knew it. They just didn't care until it became a public relations nightmare. Dr. Kellerman was released from the hospital after 6 days. His lawyer immediately announced that they were dropping the criminal complaint against me and wouldn't be pursuing civil damages. The school district quietly settled with Malik's family for an undisclosed amount. Kellerman took early retirement with full benefits. The charges against me were dropped 2 weeks later. The district attorney's office released a statement saying that, after reviewing all available evidence, we've determined that prosecution would not serve the interests of justice. Translation: they realized they couldn't win and didn't want the bad publicity of putting a teenager in jail for exposing racism. I returned to school to find that everything had changed and nothing had changed. The interim principal was a black woman named Dr. Foster, who'd come from a district across town with a reputation for progressive discipline policies. She instituted new training programs and accountability measures. She created anonymous reporting systems for students who witnessed discrimination or abuse. But most of my classmates treated me like I had some kind of contagious disease. Teachers were polite but distant. Parents whispered when they saw me in public. I'd become the kid who'd torn down the establishment, and in a conservative community like ours, that made me dangerous. Do you regret it? Malik asked me one day as we walked to class together. We'd become friends over the past few weeks, bonded by our shared experience of being at the center of a storm we never asked for. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I regret that Dr. Kellerman got sick. I regret that it took a viral video to make people care about what was happening to you. I regret that nothing would have changed if I hadn't broken the law. But I don't regret making sure people saw the truth. Good, he said, because I don't regret it either. 6 months later, the state launched a comprehensive investigation into discriminatory practices across the school district. They found evidence of systematic bias in discipline policies, academic tracking, and resource allocation that had been harming students of color for decades. The entire school board was forced to resign. New leadership was elected on a platform of equity and accountability. I testified before the State Education Committee about my experience and the events that led to my decision to post the video. The committee used my testimony, along with evidence from dozens of other students and families, to draft new legislation requiring transparency in school discipline procedures and protecting students who report discrimination. Sometimes, I told the committee, doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Sometimes the system is so broken that working within it means enabling the very injustices you're trying to stop. I'm not saying everyone should post videos on Reddit when they see something wrong, but I am saying that when official channels fail, when proper procedures protect perpetrators instead of victims, when institutions choose their own reputation over students' safety, then extraordinary measures become necessary. The video still exists online. It's been viewed over 50 million times across various platforms. It's been used in training programs for educators and law enforcement officers. It's been cited in court cases and academic studies about institutional racism and the power of social media in social justice movements. Every time I see those 30 seconds of footage, I remember the weight of that decision, the fear of coming forward, the knowledge that I was risking my future, the certainty that staying silent would mean nothing would change. I remember Malik standing in that hallway, taking abuse he didn't deserve from an adult who was supposed to protect him. I remember thinking that if no one spoke up, if no one bore witness, then his truth would die in a principal's office surrounded by people who had every incentive to make it disappear. The system didn't protect Malik that day. The proper channels had failed him long before I ever picked up my phone. So I became the channel. I became the witness. I became the voice that wouldn't be silenced or intimidated or bought off. And even though it cost me friendships, opportunities, and the comfortable invisibility of being just another student, I'd make the same choice again, because some things are more important than following the rules, and some truths are worth the risk of telling them.